Hi everyone and welcome back to Northwestern Models TV, and today I'm really excited to build this kit. It's one I've wanted to build for a while, and it's the Ancorton double O gauge cattle lock. I don't know why I've been so excited to build it. I think it's probably because we've had it in for such a long time, and I've always thought, I really want to get into this, so let's get on to it. Right, so let's see what we actually have in the pack. I'm hoping it's going to be like all the other Ancorton laser cut kits in that it's pretty simple to do. So what we're going to do first is have a look through the instructions, which is quite a few. Oh, and we've got some pictures on there as well, so that's very helpful. Always useful to have photos. And we've got 2 threats of materials for the kit. So I'll just have a quick scan through the instructions and then we'll get on with the build. Right, okay, I've just read through the instructions. Now it really is really important to read through any instructions which come with any kit, and to go through, and because this has got photos on the instructions, it's made it a lot easier to help identify the parts, which all have part numbers on anyway, but to actually then see how it sort of goes together, so you've got a bit of an idea before you just start cutting everything out and trying to put it together. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the instructions as it says in the instruction sheet, and the first task is to glue part 2 to part 5, and part 2 is this wall piece here. I'm just going to use the craft knife. I'm just going to cut through the little tabs which are holding the parts in. You might need to go through a couple of times with it. Make sure we're through there. This is the joy of laser cut kits, is that generally they come out of the threads very easily, like so. But you do need a reasonable knife, and this one is getting quite blunt. It's done quite a few kits and probably do with being changed, but I think we'll manage for today. Right, so what we're doing, right, gluing parts 2 and parts 5 together, forming a corner. So when we look at the parts here, we can see that we've obviously got some nice stonework effect on them, and we want to make sure that they tie together really nice and so to get a nice join together like that. And it does say to make sure that the stone lock, so the blocks all line up together to join up. So let's talk about glue. So the glue we're going to use today is the Rocket Card glue. It is really good for laser cut kits. It's relatively quick drying. It's very good solid glue, which is easy to use, and like I say, it's just ideal for this kind of work. So we're not going to be using vast amounts, and we want the glue in the right place, so we're just going to put a bit of glue just on the inside there, and then bring that part to it, and then using the corners on the cutting mat, we're just going to line them up to make sure we get a nice right angled joint on there, like so. I'm just going to hold it for a minute just while the glue grabs it, hopefully without grabbing my fingers. There we go. So I know that's a little bit off there. Right, so I'm just going to let that set for a minute, which annoyingly is right in the middle of the work, but not to worry. So the next parts that we need is parts 11 and parts 4. Now this is where you need to follow the instructions. So I'll just cut these out first of all. Part 4. That's part 4, and part 11's on that one. it will soon become obvious why we need to get these parts out, and the exact reason as to why we are putting them together in a minute. Right, can we get that out now? Yes, we can. Right. So, what we want to do, like I said, is put that over there. With part 4 and part 11, we want to put them together, one on top of the other, making sure that the bottom edge, or the really long edge of number 11, lines up with the bottom edge of number 4. And it needs to go over the top of the stone effect of part 4. Okay? Because this is going to help form the ramp up to the top of the cattle dock for the cows to go up and down, or sheep, or whatever you might want to have on your cattle dock. So I'm going to glue the underside of 11, because that's the easier one to do. And I don't need vast amounts of glue, enough. And that sounds like an idiot outside on his moped. So just ignore that if you can hear it. And lining up, make sure we get the ends lined up as well. There, then just push down into place, like so. Now, you could probably put a couple of pegs on there, and I do have a couple of pegs handy, so I may do that just to help keep the two parts together. So let's grab just a couple of pegs out of the old peg bag. So it's going to keep that nicely together, and we can now just put that to one side for a minute. So, moving over to the other page. Alright, glue the sidewall part 3 to the other end of part 5, forming a stand-up corner. Okay, so we need part 3. Let's dig that out. To part 5. Now I seem to remember that part 5 was the really long piece. Yes, it was. So we now bring back that piece which has just fallen apart, and we're going to glue part 3 on the inside of there. So let's get some glue on there. And again, I'm just going to offer it all up, and hopefully the glue will grab it enough, and just line it up with the lines on the cutting mat to make sure it's pretty square. And I'm just going to run an extra bit of glue in there, and the same the other side as well, actually, just to give it a bit of strength. I think it's one of those, extra glue will be of benefit to this. There we go. So it might be one of these that you just need to let the glue fully dry before you move on to each stage when you're building this together, just to make life a lot easier. So let's move on to the next piece that we need, which is part 16, I think it is. Yeah, glue part 16 to sidewall part 2, peg it in place. Using some light clamps to hold it until dry. Now, part 16 is a completely blank part, and you'd be thinking, well, what does this particular part have to do with anything? Well, it's one of those clever little pieces which nobody gets to see because it's hidden on the inside, but it is actually going to be the same length as part 3, so when we come to put part 4 and 11 in, it means we've got something to align where, you know, 4 and 11 go at this end. So it's quite a useful little piece as well. Not only that, but it'll also help strengthen that corner joint as well. So let's get some glue on there and get that right in the corner. First and foremost, and then we'll get the pegs on. Having old pegs is a really useful thing when you're making up kits at times. Just having, you know, something just to hold it in place. It's just really, really good, really, really useful. So if you ever, you know, if you get, I mean, you can buy a bag of pegs for, I think it's just a couple of quid from the supermarket. So just, you know, get yourself some just for model making, because you'll use them, guaranteed you'll use them for a lot of kits, or if you even do some scratch building or something, if you want to try and sort of get two pieces to hold together, pegs, they're the way forward. Well, everyone's used them for years, so it's not a new technique or anything. It's a case of, well, everyone's used pegs, so let's use pegs. So the next job is to actually get parts 4 and 11 into onto our piece there. So we're going to attach, you know, the stone effect at part 3 and blank side at parts 2 and 6 up here. So it will go in there and form a nice rectangle with an extra little bit up here which you just can't see because the pegs are in the way. So let's get them glued in. And I'll just hold it in place for a minute, just to let the glue grab it. That's what we want the glue to really grab it. I mean, if you wanted to, you could always make up some little corners to put in, but once we get the main top piece on, everything's going to go pretty solid, so we don't really need to be panicking too much about that not going together just yet. Yeah, there's no point in worrying about it. It's one of those that if it was suggested in the kit, then okay, I would do that. You know, make up some little corners, but at the moment it's not. So, right, next piece, glue the platform overhang support strip, which is part 6, to the front wall. Ensuring that it aligns perfectly with each end and along the top of part 5, which is this long piece here, right in the middle, and basically it just looks like a load of bricks. And that is essentially what it is. It's like a little overhang that railway platform structures tended to always have to give an extra bit of support for the top flagstones, and also a bit of space underneath the platform for things like axle boxes and cylinders of outside cylindered steam locomotives. It just gives an extra little bit of room, but also it would also allow things like signal cables, if it was a platform, signal cables to go underneath and generally out of the way. So this piece needs to be glued along this long edge here at the top. So I'm going to glue the back of this and then stick it on to there. like it says, make sure you line up the ends and that the top of it is in line with the top of that other long piece which you're sticking it to. And because it's only a small piece, I'm not actually going to peg that because it's going to be really awkward because there's just not enough room on there to actually peg it. So the next one is to add part 7, which is the outer ramp piece here, is to cut that out and add that to the other side, so it should then mirror that part 11 which we put in earlier. Now, whether it's going to be easier to do this now or later, I'm not too sure, because it's a big piece that has the potential to flap about quite a bit, so we'll still carry on. And I'll get it stuck in place, and hopefully we won't have too many issues with it. So let's put it that way so you can see a bit better. So that will now go on the end of there. Right. Again, just trying to get it as square as possible, and just adding an extra bit of glue on the inside there just to help hold it all in place. Whilst I'm here, let's put a bit more in that one. So, right, so that is there. So now you can sort of see the basic outline of how this cattle dock is going together. Straighten it out again. Yeah, so like I say, you've got your basic shape of what it's going to be. So your cattle train will be up here, and obviously your goods yard is out here, and the cows can go up and go on like so. So thinking on that now, the next job is to actually glue part 1, which is the main top surface, to the base, ensuring that all the sides are flush apart from the platform edge, which should have a slight overlap. So with part 1, what it's saying basically is that all these side edges here, so these ones here, need to be flush with the model, but this front edge here, this main platform edge, is allowed to overhang at the overly of what would be the platform edge. So that's what we're going to aim for. So let's have a go. Quite a lot of little tabs on that one. Finished with. That's the way. So, like I said, we're going to want it to sit pretty much like that, making sure we get everything as square as possible so it all lines up nicely with a little overhang on this edge here. So we're going to glue all around the top, making sure that we don't get any down the ramp just yet, because we don't want to do those just yet, but we'll certainly get from the top of the ramp there on the front. The side and along that edge there. Make sure we got a good bit on there. Right, here we go then. So what I'm going to do is just line it up with some main side pieces first. That actually seems to be going together pretty reasonably, I'd say. Right, I'm hoping that might grab that. Now it does actually say to place it on a flat surface and leave it with a bit of weight on it for it to go, for the glue to go off. But what I actually want to do is, if I can, is to try and just flip it over like so. And then, because we're now on the inside of it, we can add a little bit of adjustment to it, but we can also add an extra bit of glue around the inside. Which will again just help hold it in place, but also give it that extra bit of strength for where we want it. I know I've not done this bit yet, we're going to come to that. And just making sure that we're all as lined up as we can be. And let's get the last bit of glue in there. Because the thing is, there's only so much glue you can get on that top edge of a piece of wood, this thin. And in reality, it's not nearly enough. So just hold a bit of weight on there. So I'm just going to hold that for a little bit, let the glue start to go off so it's really got hold of it, and then we'll have a look at seeing what the next stages are. Right, so the cattle dock is now currently under a bit of weight, so I've got a small hammer and a Stanley knife just to add a bit of weight on it to keep it in place, while I then get on with the next part of the process, which is to actually glue the ramp to the base. Okay, so the ramp is part 8, which is part here, so that then needs gluing to that, ensuring that the outer edge is flush with the outer wall. Okay, right. So I might actually end up just leaving this off for a few minutes, just while that glue goes off a bit more first, before we actually stick this in. Which is fine. So that would go in there, which you can't quite see from here, but that does indeed form the ramp down there as well. Okay, so right, what I'll do is I'll let that dry off a bit more first before we stick that on, because it does actually say that this, once you've got that ramp on, that is then the time to basically paint the base. Now I'm not actually going to paint the base just yet, I'm going to do that later, because I just I really want to get it built, and then I can decide how I'm going to paint and weather it and so on, just to make it a little bit more interesting. And plus that way, once we've added all the fencing to it, we'll be able to weather it all as one, you know, just have it all painted in one go rather than splitting it all up. It's, you know, by fitting the fencing, it's not going to have a detrimental effect to where it's going to be, you know, in place or anything like that. So let's have a look then. Yep. Because it says in the instructions there that the fencing was, that they put their fencing in wood stain for a few minutes and then allowed it to dry off before they glued it in place, but yeah, like I said, I'm going to do that all afterwards. So, glue the platform edge fencing section part 9 in place as shown, and basically just build it up as we go around. So that does look quite a fiddly fret. Obviously now we're down to the fencing, so it's quite delicate stuff. Just going to need a little bit more care when we're cutting these pieces out, so that they actually, you know, go in the right place without any damage or anything like that. So let's get them cut out. Yeah, there we go. Part 9. It should generally be reasonably obvious where the different bits of fencing go by the looks of it, and I'm sure most of you will be able to, you know, get it in place quite happily. So let's just see if this is dried first, or dried enough to at least fit the ramp. And these other bits, it's looking pretty good. Yep. Okie dokie. So let's just go back a couple of steps. So the ramp, which is part 8, goes in on there and sits on top of that part 11 and down there. So let's get those bits glued on fairly quickly, because then we can get on with actually building up the rest of it quite happily whilst this goes off, because we can just leave a little bit of weight on this ready for us to put the other bits and pieces on. Right, make sure we get it the right way up, nicely up to there, and just press it in to make sure it's there. And it does say in the instructions it should be relatively flush with this front edge here. I'm sure that anyone should be able to put that together quite happily. Right, so as that's, right, we're going to leave that to do what it needs to do, glue wise. Once I've added a little bit extra in the back. So just leave that to go off on there. Right, so let's reread where we were with the fencing. Let's not get distracted too much. So, right, right, so glue the platform fencing 9, which is that piece there, into place as shown in figure 12. Use a 90 degrees square to ensure the alignment is at 90 degrees and vertical. The bottom of the gates should align with the scratch marks on the surface. So on the surface we can see these two arc shapes here, and that is where the gate in the middle should be visible. That's where it should go onto, in the middle about there. Now it seems a bit strange to me to add this one first. I thought we might have gone around, but that's what it's suggesting, so there's no real reason to go against that. But what I'm going to do with these is, on the bottom of each of these bits of fencing, there's just the remains of the tab. So I'm just going to get a needle file, or you could use a small piece of sandpaper, and just file or sand the bottoms of them flat, just to get rid of that little tab that might be left, because you just know that it's going to cause problems when you come to glue it in place, because it's just going to be held up by a tiny little piece which is going to be slightly higher on one than it is on the other, and it's a flimsy and delicate enough piece as it is. We don't want to make it any more awkward to fit than it needs to be. It doesn't take long to just give it a quick sand, or like I say, you could use a needle file if you wanted. I wouldn't use a great big file on it, because you'll have nothing left. It'll just destroy it. You know, you could go in with, you know, a big workshop file or something, and it'll just eat it all up in no time. Right, so there we are. They're all looking a little bit flatter now, so that should be able to stand on there quite happily. It's going to need a bit of help to obviously stay in place initially while the glue grabs hold, but yeah, around there somewhere is going to be pretty good, I think. And obviously once we get the rest of it in, it's all going to, the strength will come into it then. So let's get some glue on here. This is probably the fiddliest part of the whole build, I feel. This is going to be, because there's no other real way around it. It is just going to be fiddly, it is going to be awkward, but I think just take your time with it, and generally if you take your time when model making, you can't really go wrong. Right, the fencing section part 12. Okay, so part 12 will go across here, which is this piece here. So again, I'll just nibble that out of there. Oh, no, not cut it round the ends. Oh, that's a shame. That's made it awkward. When they've laser cut this, the ends of the bars, they haven't laser cut through them, so they're still attached. That was a little bit, well, not necessarily unexpected, but a bit of a, ooh, that would have been really useful if they'd cut the end off. I know why they haven't. They haven't cut it off because they don't want, you know, the bits of fencing to come off or anything like that. They don't want it to, you know, obviously survive in the kit, so that's going to go along that edge there. So let's again just sand the bottom of them. You might remember I said at the beginning that this was one of the kits I've been looking forward to making for a long time, and you know what, I have actually genuinely enjoyed putting this together. It's been quite fun, which is good. It's one of those, you know, it's that old fable, isn't it, where you know, you think, you know, you're going to really enjoy putting something together and it turns out to be an absolute pain in the backside. But no, genuinely, I have actually really enjoyed putting this together. It's been very, very enjoyable. Right. Yeah, so you just work around the parts, just gluing them in place. So and as you can see, it's not really taken a vast amount of time to put this together. I mean, yes, I've not painted the base of it, which they suggested doing before you added all the fencing. So obviously you then got your painting time on there as well. But I think overall that it's one of those. It's probably, I don't know. I don't actually know how long it's been. I'll obviously be able to see on the video. I think it's probably been like half an hour, 40 minutes or something. It's not. It doesn't feel like it's been a long, arduous build. It feels like it's been a nice build that's that's just gone together. So that'll go on there. So we can see it's starting to come together now. Starting to get there, which is always nice. It's one of those things where you see quite a bit of progress quite quickly, because it's big pieces going on, which is why you can see the progress as quickly. You can see it's we've got 3 components left to put it together. And then we'll put an extra bit of glue around here and there, and then it's a case of right, it's ready for painting. So it's virtually done. So it's one of those that you could easily do in an evening, an afternoon, or when you've got like an extra spare hour or something. You think, oh, I could just do that. I wouldn't necessarily say right, try and do it before you have your tea or something like that, but there's no reason why you can't have a go at an hour or 2. Just take your time with it and just build it up. And if you wanted to follow the instructions as they say, and put that and paint it before you put all the fencing on, then obviously you're going to have that downtime with the paint drying. You've got to have that bit of time on it there for the paint to dry. So it is going to take a little bit longer. So you could probably say, okay, we'll do it over a couple of nights rather than try and get it all done in one big go. But it's your model. You can do it exactly how you want to do. And I suppose if there is a downside to this kit, and I would say it's probably the only downside to it, is that the ramp can only be made to go one way in the kit. Perhaps if you're a really skilled modeller, you could probably adapt it so that if you wanted the ramp to come the other way, then you could do. But I would say that is the only criticism, is that there is no potential to adapt it for that ramp to go the other way. If you wanted it to go the other way, But other than that, it's, as you can see, it's gone together really rather well. I'm pleased with it. Right, now then, do I put that in first? And then the gates are separate. Okay, that was unexpected. That was unexpected, in that the top gates are actually separate. Okay, that makes things a little bit easier, I suppose. So obviously you could have it with, if you were perhaps loading any cattle up, you could have it with the gates open or with the gates shut. Okay, right, in that case we'll fit the outer line of fencing first. As you can see, that was a bit of a surprise. I was not prepared for those gates to be open, or as two separate gates, so that's quite a welcome little surprise actually. So let's get that on there. So as you can see, we've almost got our full pen together. So I've just got to get these gates on. Which, like I said, I honestly thought that they were one item together, not as two separate ones. So, like I said, it's a bit of a pleasant surprise. So obviously got to make sure we get them the right way up now as we put them in. Sleeves up. So what we'll do is we'll glue down the side and on the bottom to give them that extra bit of strength, and go with the outside one there. By gluing down the side of it, we're gluing it to the other post as well, so we're giving it that extra little bit of strength that it's going to need. So here we go, last piece of the big puzzle, which is always going to be the most awkward to get in there. But we're there, it's in. So there we are, that is our cattle dock, all built, ready for paint now, and that's it, job done. So there we are, that's how to build the 00 gauge Ancorton cattle dock. Like I said, it's one of the kits that I've been really looking forward to building for quite a long time. So it's one of the first products we ever had in the shop, and it's one of those, I've always wanted to build it, and I'm really glad it's lived up to my expectations of it, as it's a lovely kit. It's gone together really, really well and really simple, as hopefully you've been able to see in this video. So anyway, I do hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, don't forget to give us a good old thumbs up, and also do make sure that you hit that subscribe button as well, because we've got plenty more how to make it videos, as well as our Good Shed blogs coming along as well, with all fantastic new products available from our store from all of our UK based suppliers. So there's nothing more to be said other than once again, thank you very much for watching, and happy modelling.